Welcome to the Cenario Podcast, your guide to mental health and well-being. Each episode, we uncover practical tools, discuss expert insights, and explore how supplements can transform your mental health journey. Get ready to learn, grow, and thrive with us.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're wading into, well, the often pretty confusing world of health and wellness. And we're tackling a really specific question. Why exactly are experts recommending Cenario supplements? It seems like something worth digging into. Our source for this deep dive is an expert opinion piece. It really gets into the science the professional takes behind Cenario. So our mission here is to pull out the key insights, help you understand what makes products like this one actually stand out to the pros. We're using Cenario as a kind of case study based on this source.
That's exactly right. Look, people aren't just browsing for products anymore. They want facts, they want data, something solid. And this deep dive, using our source, explores how Cenario seems to be trying to meet that need, focusing on verifiable science, expert endorsements, all aiming at things like emotional balance, resilience, better mental well-being. It's really about finding some clarity, right, in a space that's frankly, often pretty murky, understanding the criteria experts actually use.
Okay, so let's unpack this. In a market just flooded with stuff, a lot of it based on, fleeting trends, how does Cenario approach formulation differently, according to the source?
Well, the piece we looked at really emphasizes that their approach is guided by verified facts and scientific data, not just the latest fad. They seem to develop their supplements using findings from neuroscience, psychology, even nutritional psychiatry, which is interesting.
Nutritional psychiatry.
Yeah. And what stands out is this focus on intentional, concise ingredient lists. They're designed pretty specifically for concerns like anxiety, stress, sleep issues, low mood. It's quite a methodical way of doing things.
And you hear the term evidence-based thrown around a lot. What does our source say it means in this context? Really?
Right. It's more than just jargon, or it should be. The source points out that Cenario apparently uses ingredients where there's actual scientific backing, proper studies. So things like magnesium, ashwagandha, omega-3, specifically EPA and DHA, L-Theanine, St. John's wort. These aren't random.
Okay, familiar names there for anyone interested in this space.
Exactly. Like ashwagandha, it's an adaptogen, helps your body handle stress. L-Theanine, you find it in green tea, known for being calming. This focus is summed up pretty well by a quote in the source from Dr. Max Ong, an integrative therapist. He says, mental health is deeply personal, but the science behind the right nutrients isn't guesswork. What Cenario offers is clarity in a space that's often confusing.
That quote seems to capture their whole ethos, doesn't it? Clarity through science.
It really seems to reflect the brand's stated goal, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Cutting through the noise with data.
Okay, so with that science foundation laid out, where specifically are experts seeing results? What areas of mental well-being are they talking about? Let's get into that.
Right. So for brain and mood health, the source mentions clinical psychologists really stressing the importance of nutrients that support neurotransmitter activity.
Brain chemicals, basically.
Exactly. Your serotonins, dopamines, the things directly impacting mood, focus, all that. Omega-3s, especially EPA and DHA, and SAMe come up as prime examples. Both apparently have solid peer-reviewed studies behind them. And there's another quote here from Dr. River Santos, a licensed psychologist. She says, while supplements are not a substitute for therapy, they can serve as a valuable complement to enhance its effectiveness.
That's a really important point, not a substitute.
Crucial distinction, she continues. Cenario's combinations, particularly those including omega-3s, SAMe, and L-Theanine, are among the few I confidently recommend to patients.
Okay, so Dr. Santos is clear. Supplements complement therapy, they don't replace it.
Right.
What do you think stands out there for someone listening? How does the source position Cenario within that bigger picture?
Well, I think it tackles a common worry, right, that people might see supplements as a magic bullet. The implication from the source seems to be that, no, they aren't a standalone fix, but chosen well, maybe with professional input, they can create a better physiological environment, one that actually supports therapy or other efforts.
So optimizing the body's own processes, kind of.
Yeah, something like that. Rather than just papering over cracks or skipping proper mental health care, then moving on to sleep and recovery. Sleep experts also seem to favor Cenario's approach, according to the source. They specifically call out magnesium, GABA, which is a key calming neurotransmitter, and L-Theanine again.
L-Theanine seems to pop up a bit.
It does. These are apparently noted for being quite gentle on the nervous system, promoting rest without that horrible next-day grogginess you sometimes get. Kira V, who's a sleep wellness coach, is quoted saying, "I recommend Cenario to clients who struggle with sleep but want to avoid pharmaceutical sleep aids. Their formulations are gentle in approach, yet highly effective."
Gentle but effective. So for someone looking for that kind of gentle sleep support, what's the main takeaway here from the source?
I think the key idea presented is using formulations that work with the body's natural rhythms, not against them. The source suggests that if you're exploring alternatives to maybe harsher sleep meds, but you still need something that genuinely works, Cenario's approach seems to align with what these professionals see as beneficial, focusing on natural regulation for better sleep.
Makes sense. And what about stress and burnout? That's huge for so many people.
Absolutely. And here, the source says professionals managing chronic stress often highlight adaptogens. We mentioned ashwagandha earlier, rhodiola is another one. The article points to clinical support for these in terms of cortisol regulation.
The main stress hormone.
Right, and also energy balance. Micah Cruz, a life coach and wellness consultant, puts it this way. Cenario goes beyond merely alleviating symptoms. It provides comprehensive support for the body's stress response system. She mentions clinically studied ingredients like ashwagandha, rhodiola, and magnesium again, and adds, "That's why I confidently recommend it to clients experiencing the early signs of burnout."
Okay, that phrase, beyond merely alleviating symptoms, Micah Cruz used that. What does that actually mean in practice for someone feeling stressed or burnt out based on the source's perspective?
Well, if we connect the dots from the source material, it suggests they're aiming for more than just temporary relief, not just masking the feeling of stress. By using these adaptogens and minerals like magnesium, the idea presented is that Cenario aims to bolster the body's own ability to manage stress physiologically, helping regulate cortisol, balance energy.
So building resilience from the inside?
That seems to be the angle, yeah. Rather than just a quick fix for the symptoms, it's presented as a more foundational support.
That's definitely an important difference. Okay, so we talked about the ingredients, the what. Let's shift a bit to the why. Why Cenario? In such a packed market, how does the source say they stand out?
Yeah, good question. And the source does outline several points here, framing them almost as general principles for evaluating supplements. It's not just the pills. They seem to emphasize providing expert testimony, education, what they call a path forward. And critically, they highlight third-party testing for purity and safety. That's huge.
Absolutely essential. Independent verification.
Exactly. The source connects this to the idea that facts or data are essential to responsible healthcare. It means someone else checked what's actually in the bottle. That's a big deal for consumers. The source also notes Cenario avoids unnecessary fillers, artificial additives, exaggerated claims, which, let's be honest, you see a lot of out there.
Sure.
Then there's a personalized angle, a free health quiz, apparently science-based, to guide you to the right supplements for you. And they talk about radical transparency, full ingredient disclosure, sourcing details, summed up by their phrase, clarity always wins.
Radical transparency, I like that.
Yeah. And finally, they're education-focused, offering ebooks, guides, based on evidence to kind of empower people on their wellness journey.
This focus on transparency and education really stands out in the source material. How does the source explicitly link that back to what we were saying earlier about listeners wanting actual facts and data?
Well, it connects directly. The source basically argues that in a field that isn't always tightly regulated, this openness builds trust. Being able to see exactly what you're getting, where it came from, why certain things were chosen, it moves you past just taking a company's word for it. It empowers you, the listener, to make an informed choice based on information you can actually verify, which seems to be exactly what people are looking for now.
Right. It shifts the power dynamic a bit.
Precisely.
Okay. And to really drive this home, the source doesn't just rely on the experts. Like, it brings in actual user experiences too.
Yeah, it does. It includes a couple of testimonials, which sort of ground the expert opinions in real life. For instance, there's Andee, described as a busy mom and teacher. She apparently shared that after taking their stress supplements, she feels calmer in situations that used to overwhelm me. Life feels lighter and more meaningful again. Calmer and lighter. That's quite an outcome.
And then there's Raymark Z, a freelance designer. He had ongoing sleep problems, apparently. He noted that after using Cenario's GABA plus magnesium supplement, he started waking up feeling genuinely rested and restored.
Genuinely rested. Anyone who struggles with sleep knows how huge that is.
Definitely.
So when you put these real-world examples next to the expert commentary, how does the source suggest they work together? What's the combined impact?
Well, what really comes through is the synergy the source presents, I think. The expert testimony gives you the scientific rationale, the professional validation, the why, and how it's supposed to work.
Okay, the logic behind it.
Right. And then the user stories add that human element, what it actually feels like, the day-to-day impact. So together, as presented in this analysis, they paint a much more complete picture of potential effectiveness. It bridges that gap between, lab research and how someone actually feels living their life. That makes a lot of sense. A combination of the science and the lived experience. Okay, so let's try and sum up our deep dives based on this expert piece. It seems pretty clear that the reason professionals might back Cenario comes down to a few key things presented in the source. You've got the scientific foundation, specific ingredient choices aimed at targeted issues like mood, sleep, stress, and this really strong commitment to transparency and educating people.
Yeah, and if you take a step back, the source suggests something broader in this crowded wellness space. When professionals do vouch for something based on clear criteria, science, transparency, good practices, it probably warrants a closer look for yourself. It kind of challenges you, doesn't it? Maybe it's time for your own cross-examination, as the source puts it, of what really supports your mental health journey.
A personal cross-examination. I like that framing. Using some of these principles we've talked about today, the focus on evidence, transparency as a guide. So we definitely encourage you to reflect on these insights. Think about how they apply to your own search for well-being and knowledge. Keep exploring, keep asking questions. And yeah, stay curious. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Thanks for tuning in to the Cenario Podcast. Don't forget to visit Cenario.com for more expert tips, articles, and supplements designed to support your mental health. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe and share it with a friend. Until next time, take care of yourself.